Donald Trump spoke in Bedminster, New Jersey after his arrest and arraignment. Many of you have probably seen moments from this. I'm a little late to the party because, as I just mentioned in the intro to today's show, but for our YouTube segment viewers, I was in Miami, Florida, so I was traveling, got back, and now I want to discuss this speech. Very fascinating because of how weak his defense is of what he's being accused of. And if this, what he's saying publicly, is representative of what he's going to say in court in defending himself against the criminal charges against him in regard to his mishandling of classified documents, the obstruction, the lying to federal authorities, trying to cover it up, all of that, then I don't think he has a shot, a very good shot, of being successful in his defense. And you'll definitely see what I'm saying as we walk through some of these moments. Again, this is at his club in Bedminster, New Jersey, and we'll start with this moment.
Charging a former president of the United States under the Espionage Act of 1917 wasn't meant for this. An act for a crime so heinous that only the death penalty would do, and threatening me with 400 years in prison for possessing my own presidential papers, which just about every other president has done, is one of the most outrageous and vicious legal theories ever put forward in an American court of law. The Espionage Act has been used to go after traitors and spies. It has nothing to do with a former president legally keeping his own documents.
So you notice, and what we talked about even before he was officially arraigned, was his defense is just, it doesn't even address, and that's what's so fascinating about this, and just gonna be a complete failure, I think, for him if he tries to go this direction in court, is it doesn't even address the evidence, the accusations against him. It's not trying to say, no, what you're accusing me of is not at all what I'm guilty of. You're misinterpreting the events, and that evidence is incorrectly presented, or it's manipulated, or it's none of that. It's just, yeah, I did all the things that you're accusing me of, but it's okay. I'm choosing that it's okay. My interpretation of the law that I am repeatedly misstating means that I can do whatever I'd like. And I'll talk more about what I mean by that after this second clip.
The president enjoys unconstrained authority to make decisions regarding the disposal of documents. That's unconstrained to make that decision. Neither the archivist nor Congress has the authority to veto the president's decision. The Presidential Records Act does not confer any mandatory or even discretionary authority on the archivist to classify records. Under the statute, this responsibility is left solely to the President of the United States. Think of that. That's the decision. Think of that.
So you'll notice he's making points about the president's authority. Well, let me state a few things here. He keeps bringing up the Presidential Records Act. He's not being charged for violating the Presidential Records Act. And also, he wasn't complying with the Presidential Records Act as he was fact-checked during the CNN town hall. And when you actually read the Presidential Records Act, he'll say it means something, it just doesn't. And then even when Caitlin Collins presented the information to him, he's still charged forward. So he wasn't even in compliance with the Presidential Records Act, but he's not being charged for violating the Presidential Records Act. And he wasn't president when he did the things that he's being charged for. And so he's making points about the authority of the president when it comes to classified material, but he wasn't president. He was a former president at the time he committed the crimes, or allegedly committed the crimes he's being charged for. And as a reminder of what he is being charged with, as the Washington Post outlines, Trump indicted on 37 counts over classified documents, 31 counts of willful retention of national defense information, 3 counts of withholding or concealing documents in a federal investigation, 2 counts of false statements, 1 count of conspiracy to obstruct justice. And what he never will address is the fact that a lot of what makes his case so severe, yes, is the sensitivity of the material, is the irresponsible actions he took in allowing that material to be so accessible to someone who wasn't allowed to have that information, access that sensitive material. And also, he obstructed the investigation, allegedly. He lied to federal authorities, allegedly. He seemed to conspire with his staffers, NADA, lawyers, to try to prevent the federal government from getting these documents back. He knew that he was not supposed to have these documents, or at least that the federal government was saying that he wasn't allowed to. They were asking for this material, and he was telling them, you have everything. I don't have any documents left. And then after asking for months and months, they raided his home and found that indeed he did have documents, and the evidence seems to show that he knew he still had these documents. And that's why he can't interact with the evidence. He can't refute the evidence because it's so damning, it's so clear. I invite you once again to actually read the unsealed indictment yourself. Quick funny moment. One of the conversations I had with a Trump supporter outside of the courthouse on Tuesday was about his feeling that this is all political persecution. And I said, okay, have you read the unsealed indictment? Every person I asked there hadn't read the indictment. Okay. But I pulled out my phone and just started reading it. And then he stopped me eventually. But I was just reading the indictment to him. It was very, very funny. But I invite you to actually read the indictment. And you'll see, any reasonable person would see that the evidence is clear and the violation of the law is very clear. And that's why it has to be, let's talk about anything other than the actual thing he's being accused of, the actual violations of the law he's being accused of. Then you have this.
Because the sham indictment put forward by the Biden administration included staged photographs of boxes at Mar-a-Lago, many people have asked me why I had these boxes. Why did you want them? The answer, in addition to having every right under the Presidential Records Act, is that these boxes were containing all types of personal belongings, many, many things, shirts and shoes and everything. As can be seen in the picture where someone, not me, I wonder who it might have been, dumped one of the very neatly arranged boxes all over the floor. They were full of newspapers, press clippings, thousands of pictures, thousands and thousands of White House pictures.
So then this is the other thing that is being done by many of his supporters. Come on, this was just his personal stuff. This was nothing sensitive. And in the build up to finding out what indeed he had in these boxes with this classified material, that again, in the indictment, you see that he was recognizing, caught on audio recordings, recognizing the information was still classified. He knew that at the time. Now he says otherwise. But the joke, not really joke, but the hypothetical that people defending Trump would throw out there is, what are you thinking he had information on nuclear weapons or nuclear capabilities? Come on. And yes, that's what he had. Some of this classified information had to do with the nuclear capabilities of countries, and that is as sensitive as it gets. And he was acting irresponsibly and maliciously, it seems, in attempting to keep this information. And then one more moment from this speech.
They lawlessly pierced my attorney-client privilege with lawyers. What they did to lawyers, what they have done to our lawyers, all of our lawyers, they've done things that were absolutely horrible and unthinkable.
Quickly, before he moves on to his next point, of course, what he's talking about is indeed lawyers of his were required to themselves provide information and testify, but that's because, as is the case under current law in the United States, yes, lawyers have attorney-client privilege and usually are protected from having to testify in situations like this, except when, and this is something that every single, including Trump, person who's aware of the law is aware of, except for when the lawyer is being used in furtherance of a crime. If they are a part of, or there's enough evidence that indicates they are being used to commit a crime, they are a part of a crime, then that attorney-client privilege can be pierced. So just don't commit so many crimes around or with your lawyers, then they wouldn't have to be testifying.
The leaking has been unbelievable and highly illegal. They leak. We've learned more from the Washington Post, New York Times, about the DOJ's boxes hoax. It's a boxes hoax. than from prosecutors themselves. They lawlessly.
And then again, make it about anything other than what he's being accused of. Oh, the leaks. The leaks should be the real focus. I said that was the last moment. I actually have one more thing to look at. So absurd. Take a look at this.
I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States of America, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family. Name a special prosecutor.
Don't you love it? And by love it, I mean hate it, but let's keep it lighthearted. Don't you love the fact that, again, in so many of these conversations with Trump supporters at the federal courthouse in Miami on Tuesday, the thing that they would say is, listen, let's not even talk about the indictment. Let's not talk about what he's being accused of, because we just shouldn't have a situation in this country where the political opponent of the president is being indicted. That can't happen. And that's horrible. And Trump's a current presidential candidate. How dare he be held accountable legally? And then they turn around and go, yeah, lock up Biden. Don't lock up your political opponents if it's Trump. And it's not Biden locking Trump up as they say that it is. Of course, there's been an extensive investigation independent of Biden that has uncovered some very damning evidence, and that's what Trump is being held accountable for, separate from Joe Biden. And we should have in this country an actual situation where law and order exists as they say they support, and no one is above the law. And this is what that represents. But then they'll turn around after saying that about Trump and go lock him up about Biden and support Trump investigating. Trump being directly involved in appointing a special counsel trying to get an investigation into Joe Biden, the Biden crime family. Very hypocritical, but as we know, hypocrisy is yummy to Trump. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are able to be uploaded to the YouTube channel, plus get the bonus show on the weekends, you can do so by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. That's lukebeasleyshow.com/membership, and there's a link in the description.